really sure if this is the right place to share a story like this, but after everything that's happened, it feels like something I need to get off my chest. It's been years now, but there's still this weird feeling like an unfinished chapter in my life, and maybe, just maybe, putting it into words will help me close it for good. I've told everyone I can, family, friends, neighbors, even a couple of random online forums and local news outlets. And yet, no matter how many times I tell it, it never feels like enough. It's like this lingering obligation to warn people, even if it sounds unbelievable. At the time all of this started, my life was about as normal and uneventful as it gets. I was in my mid-20s, had a stable job, a steady girlfriend who's now my fiancée, and a modest but comfortable life. I hadn't gone to college, so I'd been working full-time straight out of high school. It wasn't glamorous, but it was enough to keep me grounded. Life had fallen into a comfortable rhythm, and honestly, I was happy with that. We lived in a small, quiet town, tucked away somewhere most people have never even heard of. The kind of place where neighbors still wave at each other, front doors are left unlocked sometimes, and the biggest crime anyone talks about is a stolen bicycle. It was peaceful, predictable, safe. Or at least, that's what I thought. Our house sat at the very end of a dead-end street, the last property before the woods began. The woods stretched for miles beyond what the eye could see, thick, dense, and ancient. As a kid, I used to love exploring them with my brothers. There was a kind of magic to it, the idea that no matter how far you wandered, there would always be more. We never found the end of those woods. Back then, it felt like a natural playground. As an adult, I started to appreciate it for a different reason: the privacy. No nosy neighbors peeking into your backyard, no traffic, no noise except for the wind whispering through the trees. It always felt more protective than threatening, at least until the footprints started appearing. The house we lived in wasn't just any house, it was the house I grew up in. A sturdy old brick house, the kind you don't really see much anymore. It had been in our family for generations, passed down like an heirloom. My dad had inherited it from his parents when he was about 40, and when my girlfriend and I needed a place to live, they graciously handed the keys over to me. The house had gone through a few renovations over the years: new windows, updated kitchen, but it still held the bones of the past. The heavy, creaky doors, the old brick chimneys, the way the walls seemed to hum with the memory of decades. It wasn't perfect, but it felt real, solid, like home. And then there were the woods. They bordered the house on two sides, stretching endlessly beyond our property. Not the manicured kind of woods you see in parks. These were wild, untamed, trees so thick you couldn't see 10 feet in front of you. Underbrush tangled around tree trunks like old veins, and in the winter, a heavy silence would fall over the entire forest, broken only by the occasional gust of wind shaking snow from the branches. Growing up, those woods were a playground. My brothers and I spent countless weekends building forts, climbing trees, pretending we were explorers on the edge of some uncharted land. We never made it very far. Even now, as an adult, the idea of getting lost in there was uncomfortably real. But I never thought of the woods as dangerous. If anything, they felt like a barrier, a shield from the noise and chaos of the world beyond. I didn't realize then that the woods weren't keeping things out. They were keeping something in. It started on a Sunday morning. There was snow on the ground, fresh and untouched. The air was crisp, and everything had that bright, almost blinding glow that only comes after a heavy snowfall. It was one of those rare mornings where the world feels clean, quiet, new. I was getting ready to head out for my Sunday tradition, grabbing a coffee from the diner a few towns over. The place had the best coffee in the county, hands down, and it was my little ritual, my reward after a long week. I threw on a coat, stepped outside, and instantly noticed something strange. There, next to my truck, were footprints. Clear as day. 2 feet, spaced evenly apart, leading right up to the driver's side door. I stopped in my tracks, staring at them. At first, I figured it was my girlfriend. Maybe she had needed something from my truck earlier and didn't think to mention it. But the more I looked, the less sense it made. The footprints didn't circle the house. They didn't lead up to the porch or the windows. They came straight from the woods, stopped at my truck, and then went straight back into the trees. No detours, no hesitation. Just a direct line. I felt a shiver run through me that had nothing to do with the cold. I called out to my girlfriend, asked if she had been outside earlier. She shook her head, confused. She hadn't even been awake. I stood there for a while, staring at the trail, trying to make sense of it, trying to explain it away. Maybe it was a hunter, I thought. Maybe someone had gotten lost and wandered onto our property. But there were no other prints. No signs of anyone trudging through the snow. Just those 2 trails, coming and going. Nothing happened for a while after that. Long enough that I convinced myself it had been a fluke. A one-time thing. Maybe even a prank. But then, 2 winters later, it happened again. Only this time, it was worse. I remember the day exactly. It was early 2015, right after my Seahawks lost to the Patriots in the Super Bowl. That morning, when I stepped outside to warm up my truck, I froze. There were footprints everywhere. Not just by the truck, not just on the driveway. They were around the house, around the windows, along the porch, even circling the back door. Dozens of them. My stomach dropped. It wasn't just strange anymore, it was terrifying. I did a quick lap around the house, adrenaline pumping through my veins, looking for any sign of whoever or whatever had left them. Nothing. No broken windows. No signs of forced entry. No clues. Just a house surrounded by a web of footprints. And then I noticed something else. Something that made the fear in my chest solidify into ice. There were no shoe prints, no boot treads, no patterns, just bare feet, human feet. Someone or something had been walking barefoot through the snow in below freezing temperatures, circling our house. I texted my girlfriend immediately, told her what was going on. She was still at work, and I didn't want her to come home to this without a warning. I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to call the police. What could I even tell them? There was no crime, no vandalism, just tracks. Still, the logical side of me screamed to do something. Anything. But I didn't. Instead, I grabbed my rifle, and I decided to follow the tracks. I pulled on my thickest coat, laced up my boots, and slung the rifle over my shoulder. I wasn't some wannabe action hero. I didn't feel brave. If anything, I felt stupid. But this was my house, my home, and I wasn't about to let fear drive me out of it. I kissed my girlfriend on the forehead before I left, told her to lock the doors behind me. I promised I'd stay close. As I stepped into the woods following the prints, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was making a mistake. The snow muffled everything. Every step I took sounded like a whisper compared to the heavy, endless silence that pressed down from all sides. Even the air felt heavy, like it was thicker between the trees. The footprints led deeper and deeper into the woods, past familiar trails, past the landmarks I recognized from childhood, and then they split. 2 trails. One veered left, the other right. I stood there for a long time, heart hammering in my chest, trying to decide which way to go. My gut told me to turn back, to just walk away and pretend I never saw it. But curiosity, or maybe pride, pushed me to keep going. I chose the left trail. No reason really, just instinct. The trees closed in tighter around me the farther I went. The light dimmed. The world shrank to the sound of my own breathing and the soft crunch of snow underfoot. I kept expecting to see something, a person, an animal, anything. But there was nothing. Just the trail, leading nowhere. And then I heard it. A branch snapping. Somewhere behind me. I spun around, rifle raised, nothing. The woods were empty, silent, but I knew deep down that I wasn't alone anymore. I started walking faster, then faster, until I was practically running. Panic clawed at my mind. Visions of someone or something sprinting after me filled my head. But when I glanced back, there was still nothing. Still, I ran, all the way back to the house. I burst through the back door, slammed it behind me, and locked every bolt. My girlfriend ran to me, face pale. I tried to explain between gasping breaths what I had seen, what I had felt. We sat together on the floor for hours, not speaking much, just listening for anything. We heard nothing, not a snap, not a thud, nothing at all. When morning finally came, I went back outside. The footprints were gone, covered by fresh snowfall during the night. It was like it had never happened, but it had. I knew it had. We decided not to tell anyone else. Not then, anyway. We were afraid they wouldn't believe us. Or worse, that they would. It's been years since that winter. The house is still there. The woods are still there. But something changed that night. Something inside me. I don't go exploring anymore. I don't leave the windows open. And I don't ever go into the woods alone. People always ask why we didn't move. Why we didn't just sell the house and leave it behind. But it's not that simple. It's home. It's family. And maybe, just maybe, it's better to know the darkness you live next to than to stumble into new darkness somewhere else. There are things out there that don't belong to the world we know. Things that wait. Things that watch. Sometimes, the scariest monsters don't live under your bed. They live just past the tree line, watching, waiting. Stay safe out there. You never know what's waiting in the woods.